of the children. We have representatives of children in the Philippines. I think, Mr. Steve, this country is a very young country. Unlike most of Asia and Europe, I heard more than half of the people in the Philippines are young people. I heard, especially children. So we have with us Miss Liz Jimena from the same San Roque Alliance Children's Collective. She is 19 years old. Can you raise your hand? Yun. She's 19 years old, but she's very tall. I thought she was 20 plus. And then next we have with us Miss Leia May Marcos from the Saling Lahi Youth. She's 14 years old. Can you please raise your hand? Yeah. Saling Lahi is an NGO helping women. Children. Saling Lahi is the Filipino or Tagalog word meaning next generation. Last but not the another person, a young person, children, Miss Christine Castaño of Saling Lahi Youth. She's 16 years old. Can you raise your hand? Yeah. And last but not the least, he's not on here on the stage. We'd like to acknowledge Mr. Yule Rito Pomanay, Secretary General of Saling Lahi Alliance for Children's Concerns. Where is he? Another important person I just saw now. I did not notice. I just arrived on time. We have a very special guest, Mr. Smith, one of the most respected leaders in the social civic concerns in the country, in civil society, very respected leader, former DSWD Secretary, former civil, DSWD is Department of Social Welfare and Development, Secretary Miss Corazon de Alma de Leon. She looks very young, but before you were born, she was already a cabinet minister. You'd be amazed. Because he told me his age. Before he was born, he was already serving the disadvantaged and marginalized in this country. So when she heard you will be here, she wanted to express support. Later on, we'll ask you to express your ideas also, ma'am. Thank you very much. We'll start the program by inviting Ms. Erica Mitra to read a statement from the Association for the Rights of Children in Southeast Asia. But before that, again, we'd like to read the main topics for today. Today is World Children's Day, November 20. We are here launching the mental health wellness. There are books for children. And this is the 31st anniversary of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. So the Association for the Rights of Children in Southeast Asia, in cooperation with the German government through German cooperation and other civic groups, are rolling out here mental health materials for children and young people in the Philippines. We'd like to invite Ms. Erica Mitra, Project Officer, to read the statement. I will translate whatever you say. Thank you. So maybe I suggest you like to read per paragraph and I make it into English. As spontaneous and thank you.
Magandang umaga po. Narito tayo ngayon sa Community Bakeries Pandesal Forum upang tunghayan ang kwentong quarantine, isang paglulunsad ng mental health wellness kits para sa mga bata. Bago po ang lahat, nais ko po sanang magpakilala. Ako si Erica Mitra, ang kasalukuyang Product Officer ng Association for the Rights of Children in Southeast Asia, ARCSEA. Ang ARCSEA ay isang non-government at non-profit organization na naglalayong mas palawakin pa ang espasyo ng partisipasyon at pagsusulong ng karapatan ng mga bata at kabataan. Tinatanaw din ng ARCSEA ang isang lipunan na lubos na gumagalang sa karapatan ng bata at kabataan. Noong nakaraang taon ay simulat ang ARCSEA sa iba't ibang institusyon Foundation upang magtuunan ng pansin ang kaisipang pangkalusugan ng mga bata at kabataan sa gitna ng pandemya. Tinawag natin itong Enhancing Mental Health Wellness for the Urban Poor Children and Youth amidst COVID-19 pandemic. Isa itong tugon sa lumalalang krisis ng pang-abuso sa mga bata at kabataan, lalo pa sa implementasyon ng mahigpit na lockdown. Lubos ang pasasalamat ng AICSEA sa pagkatisa, ang German Cooperation at Taiwan Foundation for Democracy na tumugon sa hamon ng harapin ang malawakang problema ng kaisipang pangkalusugan ng bata at kabataan sa komunidad. Kinalayan ng proyekto na mapatatag ang kultura ng support system at matunahin ang proseso ng peer counseling sa mga komunidad na walang access sa serbisyo kaugnay sa mental health issues. Kaya naman, sa umagang ito, makakasama natin si Ms. Cindy Macaspa, Executive Director ng AICSEA, Herr Alexander Smith, Acting Deputy Head of Missions ng Embassy ng Federal Republic of Germany, at higit sa lahat, mga kabataan natin na naging kasama at malaking bahagi ng proyektong ito. Si Ms. Christina ng Quezon City, miyembro ng Save San Roque Alliance at Kadamay Youth. Si Ms. Leia May Marcos ng Alianza, Residente Katuparan for Art Youth Tondo. At si Ms. Christine Castaño ng Marikina, miyembro ng Saling Lahi Youth. Kung kaya naman po pakinggan natin ang mga karanasan ng mga batang ito sa lalo-lalo na sa panahon ng pandemya.
Thank you. She summarized the AICSEA objectives, and AICSEA is a non-profit NGO, and they solicited support from different organizations, and they thank you, the German Embassy, for supporting their cause. And they'd like to invite the children now to relate their experiences, their stories now.
Good morning. I'm President ng City sa Roque. So, gusto ko na po magbahagi ng aking mga experience sa City sa Roque, mga kaganapan po during pandemic. So, yun po, isa rin po ako sa mga kabataan na parang naano ng mental health, parang naranasan mental health. Kasi parang that time po talaga, parang hindi talaga sapat ang ayuda na nakuha ng aming mga magulang. Parang kami po nadadamay po kami sa kawalan ng sapat na ayuda. Parang yun po, na-stress kami, bakit pati kami nagadamay, hindi naman po namin kasalanan na ganun po. Tapos,
Pansin po na konti. She's Chris Mena. She's from San Roque area. During the pandemic lockdown, her parents were affected severely. They did not receive sufficient government assistance. So even then, their children were stressed because of the family difficulties. And she was wondering why they had to suffer this.
yun po, dahil doon, sumali po ako sa organization na City sa Roque. I'm part po ng Siklaban. Tapos, yun po, mga po kami ng mga community pantry. Tapos, doon po, dinaranasan namin na parang disperse po yung community pantry. Dahil nga po, sa mga kaganapan po, kasi nga daw po, hindi lang daw po social distancing, ganyan. Parang yung mga kapulisan, naging overprotective. So, parang ganun po. So, parang pinag-disperse yung mga tao, kasi nga daw po, wala daw pong social distancing. Pero po yung kami po, as kabataan, sinigurado po namin na safe po ang bawat isa. Po, may face mask po, tapos meron po silang face shield that time po na meron pang face shield. Then,
she said during those difficult times, she joined some community activities like the creation of it's known in the Philippines as community country. It's a place where people donate willingly and for disadvantaged people to get food there. So she was active there, but they faced some challenges like the local police were overly strict in enforcing social distancing, but they, the children and the young people, made sure that they maintain health protocols like social distancing to react to the challenges.
Dahil din po doon, nagtinuri po sa amin isang kabataan na kung saan na parang sinasabi po nila na hindi daw ganito, na hindi daw po sumusunod sa mga protocol, which is dapat po na hindi dapat warning lang dapat kasi nga kabataan po kami. Sana maintindihan po nila ang purpose ng community pantry para din po iwas ng mga ng sikos sa yun. And then, yun po, gusto lang din po ibahagi ang experience ng mga kabataan sa City San Roque nung time ng demolition sa amin. Parang ano po sa kanila, parang maliit na bagay lang po yung illegal demolish po, parang panginira ng bahay, parang ganun po nangyari. Tapos, yun po, nangyira po sila ng bahay, na bigla-bigla na lang. Actually po, mga gwardiya po yun ng City San Roque, yung naninira ng bahay, illegal demolish po. Tapos, parang kami po, as a kabataan, wala naman kami magawa kasi kabataan po kami. Parang sa akin lang po, parang apektuhan din po kami kasi parang as a kabataan, meron din po kami knowledge about doon na pag-illegal demolish po sa aming community.
She said they faced, aside from the pandemic problems of lack of assistance, they also were dispersed and they were discouraged to do all those. And then there were incidences of illegal demolition of some of their homes in their community. And she said it was very tragic for them and they had a very difficult time to react to this. And even though she's she's still young, she understands her rights that this is not legal, the demolition of their homes.
Kaya po naapektuhan yung mental health ko ng that time kasi parang ang gulo-gulo po ng mundo, mabay pa yung pandemic, parang gano'n po. Nahirapan po ako as a kabataan. Pero nung sumali po ako na ArtSeya po, doon ko
So it helped her a lot to adjust to these stressful conditions. So she's very grateful to be part of this NGO, helping children and young people like her.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you to Ms. Grace Jimena, 19 years old. Next to speak about her experiences and story, Ms. Leia May Marcos, 14 years old, from Sabin Lahi Youth, and she's from the historic Tondo district of Manila. Ms. Leia May Marcos.
Mula sa hari ng Tondo. At dito po ako upang mag-process ng pagkakataan sa Tondo. Yung issue ko sa Tondo, simula nang nag-lockdown, hindi rin po sapat yung ayunang binibigay ng barangay. Naging mahirap din po yun sa ibang kabataan, kaya nangangalaman na rin sila para ipakain.
She said she's from the Tondo district of Manila. During the lockdown, starting last year, there was this pandemic lockdown for so the local barangay sa village, the local barangay village officials were distributing ayuda in Spanish word for assistance. It's a Filipino word. Government assistance to their families were not enough, so they had difficult time. And even little children had to go out in the streets to help the family survive. Kalakal meaning they had to be scavengers. They had to go to the garbage areas and the other areas of the streets to be scavengers for whatever foods and other things they could get to eat and to sell.
Yung issue din po ng Tondo, yung ano nga daw po, squatter na kailangan i-demolish yung mga building. Madami din po yung ng sanitahin tsaka alseya na andun na nga po yung trabaho ng magulang nila, mawawala pa. Andun din yung nila yung trabaho ng magulang nila, andun para pag demolish po. Mawawalan na ng parang mawawalan pa ng trabaho.
They had a lot of challenges in the pandemic time. Not only the parents lost their jobs, many of them also were threatened with loss of homes. So they had a lot of problems during the pandemic in the Tondo area of Manila.
Yung meron pong pinatayong bagong building doon sa Katupangan. Sobrang taas sa mga building, tsaka madami na din pong kondong pinatayo. Yun din po yung nagiging problema ng ibang kabataan sa Tondo na mawawalan na po ng signal kasi ang dami na pong building. Kaya hindi na rin po sila makapag-focus sa online class nila.
Very interesting observation from her. She said in their area, there were buildings already being built, condominiums like apartments in Europe. So she's complaining that the building areas in the neighborhood had distorted the signal, the computer email signal. So the online learning abilities are hampered. The difficulty with the online learning also. Very bad signal in the internet. I think it's not only the building, it's really bad signal in the Philippines. Unfortunately.
During lockdown naman po, maraming kabataan na nagsabi na madalas silang hinahangas sa pag-uwi ng curfew. At marami din po kabataan na nagsabi na hindi na po sila nakakapaglaro kasi sobrang higpit ng lockdown. Yung ibang kabataan po na sinabi na hindi na po nila nagagawa yung kakapatan ng bilang kabataan na nakapaglaro.
It's very important. She said the lockdown curfew was very strict. It was strictly enforced. And many of the children were complaining about stress of not being able to freely go out and play and mingle with other peers. It was emotionally stressful for them to adjust. Thank you very much. Again, Ms. Leah May Marcos Salitahi, 14 years old. Next, we'd like to invite Ms. Christine Castaño of Marikina City. She's from Sabilahi Youth, 16 years old, to tell her story.
Ako po si Christine Castaño, ang boses po sa mga bata sa Marikina. Isa po sa matinding issue na naranasan ng mga bata sa Marikina ay during pandemic po, sumabay po yung pagbaha, which is yung last time po na pagbaha na naranasan po sa Marikina. Umabot po yung tubig ng baha kasi malapit po kami sa ilog. So, may tendency po talaga na tumaas po yung tubig sa bahay namin. Umabot po siya ng second floor. Thank God po na hindi siya umabot ng third floor kasi po, ganun po, lahat po talaga kami lulubog kasi nasa bubong na po talaga lahat ng bata that time. Isa po sa kasama ko sa taga Marikina po. Binahagi ang kanyang kwento na nasa bubong na daw po yung parents niya, pati siya, yung pamilya po nila nasa bubong na, tapos hindi na po nila inintindi yung gamit, because inintindi po nila kung paano po nila ipiligtas yung sarili po nila. Kasi malapit po talaga sila sa ilog, as in, katabi po sila ng ilog.
Thank you. A very different and very difficult story also from Christine Castaño. She said, aside from the difficulties of the lockdown, curfew, and pandemic restrictions, they faced another daunting challenge of the floods. It's a very horrific experience for her because they live near the river in Marikina City. So when the typhoon came and the floods went to their homes, it went as the waters went as high as the second floor already of their homes. So it was very traumatic for her and for other children. Many of the fellow children and young people like her, they had to take refuge on top of the rooftop of their homes. And luckily for her, the worst that happened was up to the second floor. If not, they would have all found it reached as the third floor. And what was traumatic, she said, she and her other fellow young people were concerned only on saving their lives and their parents and their fellow children, no longer their belongings. All their belongings were totally wiped out by the waters of the flood.
Pagkatapos po nung naranasan na pagbaha po sa Marikina, marami po sa mga kabataan sa Marikina ang hindi na po alam ang kanilang gagawin kung ano po ang unan nila. Hindi na po nila nag-isalba ang kanilang modules na lalo pa po pinasakit po ng ulo nila dahil that time po, pasahan po ng module, so kailangan po nilang mag-module, pero may pagbaha nga po na nangyari. So hindi po nila alam yung gagawin nila. After po mangyari ng flood, sinabihan po sila ng kanilang mga guro na gaya nga po ng sabi ni Briones na patuyuin na lang daw po ang mga modules po nila para po ma-isalba pa at maipasa pa po nila sa school.
Another very traumatic challenge for children and young people in the area of Marikina City. They became very confused and stressed because not only were their homes washed out by floods, their material belongings were wiped out. What was even worse for children like them were their modules. Because during the pandemic, the government distributed it's called modules, like you have these booklets and all these materials to guide you for your internet learning. Even those were all drowned by the flood waters. So they were so confused, the children, how they can study, how they could be keep up with the academic requirements of other children. The Department of Education Secretary, to be honest, just advised them, just let them lie and use them again and try to salvage these modules. But the problem was it wasn't that easy. How could they salvage? So the children became bewildered, confused, perplexed. So it added to their emotional stress and mental health problems.
Pagkatapos po ng nangyaring issue sa modules, nagkaroon po ng mababang grado ang mga bata dahil nga po sa hindi na po nila nag-ipasa ang mga modules na dapat po nilang ipasa. Pagkatapos po ng issue na yun, pagkatapos po ng pagbaha at ng issue nila sa modules, pagkatapos po ng pagbaha, wala pong natanggap na tulong ang mga kabataan, maging ang kanilang pamilya, na galing po sa government. Puro non-government organizations po ang unang tumulong sa kanila. After 3 days po kami nakatanggap ng tulong galing po sa government. Which is nagkaroon po kami ng bakit po kailangan non-government pa ang unang umaksyon sa mga ganong klase ng karanasan po sa kabataan. Dahil dapat nga po sila kasi trabaho po nila.
Another worry and another problem for them was after they had a problem with the flooding, the modules were all drowned. It affected their academic performance. So most of the children and young people of Palestina had very low grades compared to other public school children because their academic materials, their modules were destroyed. So it really added big stress for them. Plus, they were expecting some aid from the government, emergency aid, or it's called Ayuda, but it came 3 days later only. Luckily for them, for the Marikina children and young people, the main source of aid and assistance and relief for them came from private NGOs. Private NGOs came immediately and offered help to the victims of the floods, but the government people only came in 3 days later, and she as a child and other children were wondering why not that the government should have been first in the scene.
Isa din po sa pinakamalapit hamon sa mga kabataan, ang kawalan po ng pera. Marami po sa mga magulang nila ang nawalan po. Ang aking tatay po ay tricycle driver. 6 months po siyang walang trabaho. So hindi po alam ni mama kung saan po siya kukuha ng itang gagastos po sa amin. So lumaki po yung utang ni mama. Hanggang sa hindi na po alam kung paano po ito babayaran. Wala din po gaano natatanggap na ayuda na galing po sa government. Sobrang pili po talaga ng binibigyan nilang ayuda. Hindi po namin alam kung bakit kailangan piliin po yung mga tao na binibigyan ng ayuda. Lahat po tayo na kailangan.
Another very big challenge for children in their area of Marikina City, the huge unemployment problem. Many of their parents and their elders lost their jobs during the lockdown. During the lockdown, all the public transportation was shut down and people did not go to work, so people were not going out. Her father's work is a tricycle driver. Tricycle is a motorcycle with a small place where people ride for public transport. The father had to stop work for 6 months. So absolutely no source of income for the family. And the mother had to worry where to get the daily needs for their family. So she had to go into debt to keep borrowing money. So it added to their collective stress, the entire family. Not only the adults, but the children were always seeing their parents as very sad and very worried. They were even more worried. So, and another thing that they notice and they want to complain is how come there's not enough government aid being given to people like her father and others, while they have a perception or they have an idea that some other more favored people got their government aid, not them. It seems some local bureaucrats in the lower level of the government have chosen people to give government aid to, but not all the people who really need them. So that's a huge additional stress for the children.
Susunod po na rin siya na babanggitin ko ay hindi lang po bata ng Marikina ang nakaranas. Ito po ay ang problema sa modules. Marami po sa mga bata sa Marikina modular learning po ang kumuha dahil nga po wala pong access ng internet at gadgets. Yung mga magulang po nila, busy po sa work, so hindi busy po maghanap ng pagkakakitaan ng pera. So hindi po nila alam kung saan po sila magpapatulong na sa pagsagot po ng modules nila. Hindi din po, ay sumakit din po ang ulo namin sa hindi pagdinig sa boses ng kabataan na bigyan po kami ng academic break kahit 1 linggo lang po. Nahihiling po namin sa buong social media. Pero hindi po ibinigay sa amin ng DepEd. Hindi po ito tama dahil marami po talaga kabataan na nakakaranas na po ng stress, anxiety, and depression na dapat po pagtuunan ng pansin kasi hindi po ito normal at sakit po ang anxiety at depression na kailangan po pagtuunan ng pansin.
Another very important problem for the children, not only of Marikina neighborhood, but also she believes nationwide this is a problem of many children, millions of children, the problem of the modular education. Because when you have modular education, you need internet access, you need all these technical gadgets, like the basic one would be the phone or the computer at home. The problem is many of the public school children in the country are not from the well-off or middle-class homes. Most of them, many of them could not afford all these modern gadgets. Even internet connection is very unreliable and expensive. And also no smartphones for most people, no computer in their homes. So it's a very huge challenge of how to keep up with the modular education needs of the children. Plus, another thing that we are asking the government to please consider, during that lockdown period, they use the social media to make public appeals for them to be given at least 1 week academic break. Because during the lockdown, aside from all these stressful socio-economic factors and then the flood and everything, they also had to keep studying nonstop every week, every day. No academic break. There should have been at least 1 week academic break. They went to social media to keep making appeals, but their appeals were not heard, not responded to. So it added to all this piling up of so much stress, anxiety, even depression, because all these things happening to them and the whole world was abnormal for not only children, but even for adults, but it is even more difficult for children like them. She said this is her story from Miss Christine Castaño, 16 years old, of Marikina City, which is not very far from Quezon City, actually very near. Thank you very much for the 3 children's very eloquent stories of coping with pandemic stress. Miss Grace Jimena, Miss Leah May Marcos, Miss Christine Castaño. Next part of the program, we'd like to we will launch the quarantine wellness materials for children. We'd like to invite Miss Bim Bim Makaspat. Miss Bim Bim Makaspat is the Executive Director of the Association for the Rights of Children in Southeast Asia, or ARCSEA, for the launching.
Sila lang po yan naman. Hindi ba po mga kwento, halimbawa sa Tondo, nagkwento na kung araw silang hindi kumakain. Isang beses lang sila isang araw. At kumakain. Dahil sa sobrang tapos meron din mga insidente ng abuse na dahil naiiwan sila sa bahay, wala yung mga ilang tao sa paligid nila ay nagkakaroon ng pagkakataon na gustuhin yung mga bata. So, ilan lang po sa mga kwento.
Translate ko lang. Miss J.P. Makaspat said, the 3 children here just related only a few of the stories, but there are many, many more stories nationwide about children suffering during the lockdown crisis. For example, Ms. Makaspat said, she heard stories of children in Tondo district of Manila where actually families and children eat only once every 3 days. Once every 3 days only because millions of people have lost their jobs during the lockdown. And even before the lockdown, there was already poverty in that area, and it has become worse. No source of food, no source of daily income. So the children had very hard time once every 3 months only eating. And another big problem that Ms. Bimbi Makaspat has cited, the abuses experienced by many children in the Philippines during lockdown, because many children are left alone in their homes. Because the parents have to go out and look for food sources. So some bad people in the neighborhoods know that children are left unattended in their homes and would take advantage of this for abuses happening. And many of these abuses are untold and not resolved.
So, hindi kami tumigil sa pagdinig lang ng kwento ng mga bata. Gumawa kami ng paraan, bahagi ng ito, ay yung paggawa ng isang comics. Nandiyan po yung comics na tinawag namin yung kwentong quarantine na nagsusuma ng nagsusuma siya ng mga kwento ng mga bata sa iba't ibang lugar. Tondo, Marikina, Quezon City. So, nandito po yung kanilang kwento. Pinagyan ng drawing at ginawang coloring book para po sa mga bata na at least nakakalabas na ngayon pero dati hindi sila nakakalabas. Sila activities.
Very good project of the NGO Arcelia. She said their NGO never stopped listening to the children's stories, all their heartaches and their headaches, and they never stopped. So they came up with a comics. Thank you to your help and other supporters. They came up with this comics called Kwentong Quarantine. Kwentong Quarantine is Filipino language for quarantine stories. So these stories try to summarize the stories of some children in 3 cities, in Tondo, Manila, in Quezon City, and in Marikina. And these stories in the children's book is like a coloring book also. So it's going to be given to the disadvantaged communities, the children there, for them to have additional activities, plus also to express their stories. So they could understand it's not only them suffering, but many other children. It's a way to emotionally help them express their anxiety and stress. So thank you for the support of the public and your embassy and other supporters.
So maliban sa comics, meron din kami ginawang quarantine journal.
Also published a quarantine journal for kids. Thank you for public support. We want to encourage children to chronicle and record their experiences in writing. It's called Malusog na a healthy mental health, healthy nation.
Meron siyang mga activities, kinakamusta yung pakiramdam, kinakamusta yung pagtulog, meron mga espasyo para isulat nila ang karanasan nila
It's a very good project. They ask questions, how was your sleep, how was your day? And there are pages there to encourage children to express themselves in writing all their ways and their experiences. That's one way to cope with stress.
Na tinatawag ng hope hotlines, kung saan pwede silang tumawag kapag meron silang nararamdaman kakaiba o problema sa kanilang kaisipan na madaling ma-access.
That's very important. In all these children's books and journals that they had, the journal they also published the hotlines for numbers where children in stress or in distress or in crisis could call up and ask for help.
And lastly, meron din kami na game board.
Also, another thing to cope with the pandemic stress, they want kids to play. A game board. They modified the famous snakes and ladder toy, and now what is it called now for the local version?
So Box and Virus.
Box and Virus. Box meaning vaccination and virus.
Yes.
So this is a nice game for the disadvantaged communities. The children could now play at home. One way to release stress, to express emotional problems, is to, yes, for their leisure, to encourage children to have more wholesome leisure activities to take away their minds from worries and their hunger and their fear.
Kasi alam namin na nasa bahay lang sila, so kailangan nila ng gawa.
They know the kids have so much time at home doing nothing, no socializing, so this is one way they want children in the Philippines to cope with stress and pandemic lockdown.
So, dito sa project ay meron kami third-party funding na tinatawag.
They have third-party supporters for these projects which they'd like to acknowledge and thank.
We came up with Kwento COVID. This one is the Taiwan Foundation for Democracy. And the stories about COVID, so that the children will understand what COVID-19 is and how it's affecting on the children.
They have this published material also with the stories of COVID, supported by Taiwan Foundation for Democracy.
So, maliban sa mga publication, ang mga batang ito, i-expect namin na maging peer counselors sa kanilang mga komunidad. Bahagi ito ng training nila. Kaya rin yung mga panahon na ito, nagaganap ngayon ng mga peer counseling sa mga areas nila. So, sila mismo ang tumutulong sa mga kapwa-kabataan, nakikipagtuntuhan, inaalam ang problema at nagpakayo sa mga barkada nila, sa mga kilala nila, para matulungan nila.
They have a very good project also, Arcea, encouraging mature and good young people and children to be peer counselors to fellow children facing emotional stress and mental health problems. They hear the stories of their fellow disadvantaged children, they exchange ideas, they give counsel and advice to others how to cope with all this emotional stress.
Lastly, kami dito, nag-reach out din kami sa mga local authorities, sa mga LGUs. So, meron mga ginawa sila kahit ng workshop, gumawa sila ng mga bata na naka-address sa mga LGU. At naka-schedule kami bumisita sa mga vice mayors ng mga cities ng Manila, Quezon City, at saka Marikina para ibigayan sila na to at dagdag pa sa kahapon ng Arcea. Meron kami proposed resolution para maging mas child-friendly at child-safe ang mga responses ng gobyerno, ng local office, para sa mga bata sa panahon ng pandemya at sa iba pang disaster.
They had also another unique project of writing letters to all the LGUs, local government units, the cities, the towns in Metro Manila and others, and especially they want to have meetings with the respective vice mayors to request that government policies should also focus on the needs and problems also of children, not only of adults.
So sa susunod na linggo, nakaschedule kami sa Lunes kay Vice Mayor Gian Soto dyan sa City Hall sa inspection ng natin. Kung gusto nyo rin pumunta, din. Tapos sa Wednesday naman, kay Vice Mayor Marion Andres ng Marikina. Yung Manila na lang ang hindi pa po sumasagot sa amin. Hanggang December 20 yata po na yung schedule. Sabi ko lang, isingit lang. Okay na.
We also have scheduled meetings with the various vice mayors. Already on Monday, they have a meeting with the vice mayor here of Quezon City, 8 o'clock in the morning, Gian Soto. And also on Wednesday, they have a meeting with the Vice Mayor of Marikina City to express their concerns and their suggestions on how local governments can better respond to children's mental health challenges and needs. The only request is still waiting for the appointment with the Manila Vice Mayor, whose schedule is busy for the next few weeks. I'd like to help you there. She's a doctor, she's a medical doctor, a nice person. I know her, I'll try to help find an appointment for you. Um, and this is very good what they're doing. They're not only going directly to the children affected, but asking the governments, local governments to be more child focused in their policies.
So, ito po sa amin po, sa tulong po ng German operator at yung funding ng Taiwan Foundation for Development.
All of these good things they have been doing in Artsea, the publications, the various activities, the coordination and appeals to the local governments are made possible through the generous and kind support of the German cooperation, which is the government of Germany and the German embassy. Special thanks to you and also to the Taiwan Foundation for Democracy for helping publish their one of their booklets. Thank you for your continuing support for the disadvantaged many children in the Philippines. Danke schön. Next, we'd like to request the representative of the German Corporation, German government, Mr. Alexander Smith. He is the acting deputy head of mission of the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany for his message, Mr. Alexander Smith, who's new in the Philippines. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. Magandang umaga. It's an honor for me to be here with you on behalf of the German Embassy today and to listen to these stories, these testimonies of challenges that youth and children face in the Philippines now during the COVID pandemic. The COVID pandemic has caused serious disruptions to our everyday lives. All countries in the world have been hit by this pandemic and needed to react in order to save lives. The credo was and still is, nobody is safe until everybody is safe. However, these countermeasures have been a burden for all of us, but especially for children and youth. Children and youth have been greatly affected as governments put into place restrictions on mobility and schools were closed to curb the spread of the coronavirus. In the Philippines, children have not had face-to-face classes for the past 18 months, and minors were not allowed to play outside for most of the time, ever since the pandemic started. In this context, Germany comments that now the first pilot schools have resumed face-to-face classes this month, and we see positive signs to have more freedoms granted for children and youth. In order to alleviate the burden on children and youth and young adults, Germany is happy to support this project with AXEA, which seeks to provide psychosocial support to children and youth during these difficult times. And which day would be better and more suitable for the rollout of these very instructive and commendable materials than today's International Children's Day. As mental health issues were exacerbated during the pandemic due to the lack of social interaction and mobility restrictions, we understand that it is essential to provide children and youth with guidance and raise awareness about this important topic of mental health. This has also been done in various talks, multilateral discussions, together with the United Nations, especially UNICEF, to raise awareness for this important issue. So if you ask me, my message to young people today is, whenever you feel you're having a hard time, know that you're not alone and that you can get help from people and organizations around you. There is no need to hide, and you might be surprised to find that many others are feeling the same way that you do and might be able to comfort you. It is my sincere hope that we will overcome these challenging times and you will be able to live your life, play outside, and meet your friends and go back to school at as soon as possible. So I would like to close in just wishing us and wish you a happy International Children's Day. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much for Mr. Smith, Mr. Alexander Smith, Deputy Head of Mission of the German Embassy, for expressing support for disadvantaged children all over the Philippines. Thank you very much for your message. We'd like to invite also our special guest for a message. Maybe you'd like to say something about children. We have here former DSWD Secretary Corazon Alma de Leon, who is a very respected leader in the Philippines for social civic activities. What is your reaction to disadvantaged children during pandemic lockdown and the activities of the German Embassy with Artsea to try to help them? Thank you, Secretary.
Can you hear me? 3 words that you made today. Remembering, celebrating, and believing. Remembering my days when I was Secretary of the DSWD and understanding the problems have escalated because of the pandemic and, of course, population. During my time as Secretary of Social Welfare, there were only 52 million people. Now we have 110 million. So we're producing more people, but not able to really take care of them. That's a problem. That's why we need good governance. The second point that I want to say is that I celebrate the fact that there are a lot of young people who are engaged in this, and I think that is the hope of the future. Very, very important. And the third, I believe, this is very important, because I came also from a deprived childhood. And I remember the story that when I was in UP, as a 4th-year student in social work, I shook the hands of the head of the social welfare administration. And I said, someday I will be Secretary of Social Welfare. Because I knew what goal I had. And you have to have that goal. The clarity of your goals is the way you want to be. It's not enough that we complain. And you are correct that you gathering together make a difference. Even here, I'm sorry that there are so many seats at least that should be here. If we had mentioned this on radio, more people would have attended just to listen to what you say. And so I believe that hindi kasalanan maging mahirap.
It's not a sin to be poor, she said in Tagalog.
However, it's a sin na hindi magsulitan.
But it is a sin not to strive. She said it is not a sin to be born poor or be poor, but it is a sin not to strive.
And I think this is the effort that is being done. And I think, and then the other one is, magagawa natin, we can do everything, magagawa natin lahat ng bagay, kung hindi tayo nag-decide.
We can do anything and everything if we are not alone.
We should be, and I think the partnership, I'm amazed that you have partners in Taiwan, in Germany, and I want to also acknowledge that I was a participant in a couple of seminars in Berlin. So I'm familiar with the efforts also. After the Holocaust, it is no longer, it's a new Holocaust. And that if you are giving help, you're giving to those who need help. Like this particular group.
That is helpful.
So I think that my coming here is God blessed, because I did not know really the program, but I wanted to come here to ask Wilson to sponsor a health justice seminar.
Yes, yes.
Because this one should have had full of people here. Even the steps, the broken steps should be
Yes.
be able to hear what they say. And you must have it presented from Manila. It's not enough that you're saying it here, but if the people in your city do not know the care, the concern, it's not going to make a difference. And I believe that the forum like this, and I honor Wilson. I live in Paranaque.
Oh, all the way in the south, farther than your office. Wow, thank you for coming.
I also have an organization, Save the Paranaque River. I've been there for 20 years.
Wow.
I continue to advocate to clean the river. You have to maintain a river also na kailangan din. So I'll end at this point because I believe I came, I saw, and I was confident.
Thank you very much again to the very respected former DSWD Secretary Corazon Alma Carion. What year was that 52 million people in the Philippines? What year? Anong year yan? Yes. She was Secretary of DSWD 1995. You were 4 years old. 1992 to 1995. Service Commission. Really respected good public official. Thank you very much for joining World Children's Day here at Pandesal Forum of Community with Arxea and the German Corporation.
And by the way, I headed the delegation to Geneva to present the first UN report on the universal rights of the child.
Oh, wow. 1995 also. Wow, thank you very much. Very, very timely and forget myself that you are with us with this World Children's Day celebration, a unique celebration. Amidst the pandemic crisis, we have hope. We are now open for questions. First, we'd like to have a photo op first. Then we have photo op. Yes, someone will read the message from Taiwan Foundation for Democracy and yes, in English, fantastic.
So, dahil sa pandemya, ang pagkilos ng tanggapan ng Taiwan Foundation for Democracy ay nakatuon ngayon sa Taiwan. Sa kabila nito ay hindi nila nalimutang magbahagi ng kanilang pagkisa at suporta sa programa natin ngayong araw. So, this is Taiwan's message. As the first National Democracy Assistance Foundation in Asia, the Taiwan Foundation for Democracy's mission is to not only share Taiwan's experience, but also further strengthen our solidarity with like-minded people around the world. To address the challenges facing democracy today, we must work together to protect the ideals of human rights and freedom, including children's rights. We are delighted to be able to support the Association for the Rights of Children in Southeast Asia, Arxea, in their vision to eventually achieve a society where all children fully enjoy their rights. We understand that people everywhere are facing severe difficulties as a result of the measures needed to control COVID-19, and numerous children and families have been affected. We hope that this book can help increase awareness on issues related to the pandemic, lower unnecessary risks, and provide safety health protocols. Certainly, we wish that the epidemic can be under control and that we can prepare a better world for the future generations. In the meantime, stay safe. In solidarity, Taiwan Foundation for Democracy.
Thank you very much. That's Ms. Erika Mitra, who left the message from Taiwan, Project Officer of Arxea. Next, we'd like to have photo ops with the book and the games. Can we, everyone here, hold one and maybe take off the mask? Because of, yes, can you present it to the children? A ceremonial presentation. And here, yes, maybe you're in the middle or and we'll have may pandesal tayo pwede pahapon ay dalawa. These are free books by Arxea, supported by the German Corporation and other supporters, to be given out to disadvantaged children in the Philippines. Thank you to the help of German cooperation. And yes, some people could see. Maybe one book extra for the kid para mag-spell out. Yes. Yeah, so more pictures of, yes. Mga activity books. These are activity books and stories of struggles and survival during pandemic, and to help children emotionally cope with stress and to record your story. I'd like to add also, we have tips from community for all the children and for Artsea and for our German diplomat. This is a traditional Pandesal. Yes, Pandesal. Pandesal is the bread of ordinary people. From the elite to the ordinary people, we eat up everything. It's unique to the Philippines, not from Spain. It's the only country in the world with Pandesal. We are the only country. I thought we got it from Spain because of the Spanish name. Pan is bread, Pandesal. Yes. Every child will have one. Our diplomat friend will have one. And he's thinking also. Yes. So, one children stay.
Okay. Then we have without the master.
Without the master. Without the master. Photographer is the question.
Just 2 seconds. 21.
Yes, just
21, 2. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we go to the short question and answer portion. We'd like to have media ask a few questions about the issues. Yes. Yes, we have questions here from media. There's a question here from Nes Aguilar. She said, are there cures for mental health problems of children? And what should people do if they're worried if a friend or a relative, especially children, are experiencing mental problems? Where could they go to? What are your hotlines? What are your advices for children with stress and mental health problems? Where do they go?
Basically, what we need to do is to talk to the children, talk to the person suffering from mental stress. It's called stress first because it's not unless it's diagnosed. So, suffering from mental stress, it will help the person if he or she can express she's feeling, what he or she is feeling, and it's not necessary that we give advice. It's necessary that we listen. Because most of the time, especially here at this time, and when we are feeling isolated, it consoles us to talk to someone and to share what we are experiencing. But if things get worse, we have both hotlines. There are several institutions that are catering to mental health problems. Some are free, and some have to pay.
Yes. Thank you very much. There's a question for Mr. Alexander Smith. A journalist texted me a question. There's an announcement that Philippines might open classes in January for children. And supposedly the Philippines is one of the 2 countries in the world not yet face-to-face classes resuming. What is the experience in Germany of children during this lockdown? Do you have already face-to-face classes? And what have you done that we can learn from? Because we are just about to go to face-to-face January. Can you share your German experience of children in this lockdown?
Thank you very much. Yes, Germany, like other countries, had to close down schools during the hardest parts of the pandemic, and switched to online learning, which is, I think, also an experience that most countries did. But we also experienced that online learning cannot cover all the parts that you can teach in face-to-face classes. So in our opinion, face-to-face classes, especially for younger children, are essential in order to teach and in order to learn and to grow as a person as well. The relationship between the students and with the teachers is very important, and it's not the same when you only have it through your webcam. So now at the moment, schools are back to face-to-face classes in Germany under health protocols, of course. In Germany, the school is governed by the smaller states. So Germany is comprised of 16 smaller states.
It's a federal form of government.
It's a federal form of government. So all the smaller states, they decide on the health protocols depending on the spread of COVID in their respective region. So you cannot generalize, and I think also, well, every country has its own challenges with the COVID. So we're certainly not here to tell the Philippines what they need to do, but of course we're just sharing our experience in Germany.
So you were face-to-face classes since when? Very curious.
But it also depends on the states. But yes, in Germany the spread of the virus is also dependent on our weather. We have warm weather in summer and cold weather in winter. So during the summer, it's easier for us to go to face-to-face classes because you can do it with open windows, and so with winter coming, it's getting more complicated again, and we need the masks. Yes.
One more question for you about German children. What about vaccination of children? Have you started vaccination of children? What ages and when did you start, if you have? We are just starting in the Philippines to vaccinate children. What is your experience in your country? They're asking.
Thank you for the question. We have also just recently started to vaccinate children. I believe also ages from 12 to 17. I'm sorry for the. I would have to look up the exact dates.
But your government also encourages very much vaccination. You encourage people.
In general, saying the vaccine is the most efficient way for us all to get out of the crisis. So we need to listen to science, listen to the doctors and their recommendations, and if it's if the recommendations of the professionals and the doctors say that it's safe for children of certain ages, then we should certainly also encourage children to get vaccinated.
It's very good. Do not believe in fake news against vaccine. There's a question here for Arxia. Can you please walk us through the entire program of your enhancing children's mental health and wellness for the children and youth participants? What were you doing and how did you cope? What topics were covered for the children?
We started with workshops with children. It was very difficult for us because of the quarantine restrictions. So we have to wait for time that we can go to the children and have them undergo the workshops. And then during the time that we cannot have workshops again, we had webinars on different topics of mental health that affected students. So we have extensive topics such as depression, anxiety, and even self-harm and suicide, and also reproductive health. Because we have used that many teenagers have been pregnant during the pandemic. So
teen pregnancy is a problem also.
The workshops were compensated by the webinars. And then afterwards, in one of the workshops, we had brainstorming on these materials. So we asked the children what they include in the materials, they can produce them, and then we had the printing of the materials. Afterwards, because the workshops are objectives to train peer counselors, they're now conducting counseling with their peers in their respective communities. And then also part of the project is going to the local government units, so also part of this
There's a question here related to what you just said. Where can children of the disadvantaged communities avail of these books? From Christine Gonzalez.
In December, unfortunately, we have limited copies. For the project, so it's not available for the public.
Maybe the local communities could put up a simple library next time. Yes, in their barangay. Thank you very much. That's Miss Bing Makaspak of Arxeya. So maybe we have time for one more question from the media since time is up. Lastly, how do you celebrate your Children's Day in your country? How do you celebrate? I know Germany is very good towards children and education. How do you celebrate, or what are you doing in Germany for children? You can share to us maybe in the Philippines and Southeast Asia. We can learn a few reforms and good ideas from your country. On how to take care of children and protect them. Even though the Philippines is a developing country, your country is the best economy in Europe. What can you share to us about children programs of your country that we could learn from?
That's a very broad question, but I'd like to try to answer anyway. But in general terms, I think what we're doing today is actually the most important thing, that is to listen to the children. It's important to try as far as possible in any legislation which concerns children to somehow get the children on board and ask them for their opinion and for their needs. Because children, they know best what is good for them. So listen to them and believe them when they tell you about the problems, about their issues. I think this is really the single most important thing, and it's not linked to any country. It's really a universal truth, because human rights and children's rights are universal.
Thank you very much again to Mr. Alexander Smith for reminding all of us that we should also listen to children, not just think they don't have stories and ideas. Thank you very much. We'd like to invite the Secretary General of Arxeya, the Secretary General of Sandilahi Alliance for Children's Concerns, Mr. Yule Bonganay, to come here to give his message. Sandilahi, and what are you doing and your message? Thank you for your
Sa bahagi sa nila, hindi makasalamat kami sa service at sa community sa pangalawang pagkakataon. Nandito rin kami kahapon to highlight naman yung violence against women and children. Right now, we're celebrating the Universal Children's Day. So, ito pagkakataon na ito, supposedly masaya, no? Festive, no? Pero sa ngayon, ngayong Nobyembre, ngayong araw nito, pinakaharap pa rin natin yung masalimuot na sitwasyon ng mga bata. Kung nabanggit na dati 50 million, right now we have 100 million. At halos kalahati nito, 43% ng ating population ay mga bata. At based doon sa UNICEF data, no, before the pandemic, 31% ng mga bata ng Pilipino ay nabuhay sa kahirapan. At tingin natin, higit itong lumala dahil sa pandemya, maraming walang trabaho, yung pagbuhayan ay isa lang tap na hindi na pandemya ang mga nagtaan ng mga kabilidad.
Translate ko muna one part. Yes. Mr. Yune Pomana said that thank you very much. This is the second time their group is speaking here, Pandesal Forum of Community of Because yesterday, he was here, his group and other NGOs to talk about rights of women and children yesterday. And he said, thank you very much to all the supporters and the public for concern for children. He said, supposedly today, November 20, should be a happy occasion, should have been a celebration of children's rights and children's welfare. But since we now face a global pandemic, we are in crisis. So children are in crisis, especially in the Philippines. And he is very thankful. Former Secretary Corazon Ahmad mentioned that there were 52 million people 30 years ago. Now there's 110 million people. And he said 40% of Philippine population are children. 40% of the 110 million people in the Philippines today, number 12 in the world in population, are children. And out of the statistics of UNICEF, 31% of children in the Philippines are poor and suffering.
Naging detrimental ito sa mga bata. Kaya kung narinig natin kanina yung mga sitwasyon na pinipili yung mga abuso, karakasal, at pagsasamantala. No? Kaya nandito yung mga iba't ibang organization. Aside from dun sa advocacy natin with campaigns to raise the awareness of mental health, we have this mga highlight calls, no, in response to the situation of children. We have these pending bills in Congress talking ng anti-online sexual abuse and exploitation law. Appeal, no, pending pa rin sa Congress yung mga panong-panong batas kaugnay ng amendment sa anti-rape law, yung pagtataas ng edad ng statutory rape to 16 years old, and yung bill din kaugnay ng child marriage. No? So, napakami ng panong-panong batas na dapat bigyang pansin at the same time yung mga programa kaugnay ng health and education. Ngayong November, highlight din yung mga concerns ng bata kasi ngayong buwan din niluksan yung pagbabakulan sa mga minoritas. Ngayon din yung ilang araw mula ngayon ay sinimulan din yung face-to-face classes. No? So, kahapon, na nakarang araw, na-invite din si Pastor Pinuloy. No? So, doon sa sabihin ng sex trafficking na involved in minors. No? So, itong araw na ito, itong buwan na ito, napakahalaga din sa usapin ng bata. Kaya, ngayong araw, napakarami natin activity, and later this afternoon, we have Laban Bata Solidarity Concert na gagawin din sa Bantayo ng mga bayan. Kung may-invite din po natin kayo, highlight din yung mga advocacy groups, yung mga interactive workshops, and performances ng mga bata mula sa ibang komunidad na magpapakita ng kanilang sitwasyon at pag-reclaim ng kanilang mga karapatan at yung pagkabata na kasi yung mga palagod. Tingin ko ito yung ninakaw nitong pandemya. Maraming salamat.
Mr. Yune Boganay said, thank you for your message. Mr. Yune Boganay said, the pandemic has worsened the existing social, economic, poverty, and other psychological problems faced by children in the Philippines. abuses has worsened, the poverty has worsened. The many children in the Philippines, millions of their parents have lost their jobs, so they face hunger and other additional stress. Their Salinlahi and other NGOs allied with them are now lobbying for bills, and they are appealing to the government and the legislators to please pass the progressive bills protecting and advancing the rights of children. For example, there's the pending bill in Congress now called the Anti-Online Sexual Exploitation of Children Bill. Still pending, and they hope it will pass. There's also the revisions to the Anti-Rape Bill in the Philippine Congress. There's also the very unique, we have one of the lowest statutory rape age in the Philippines. If people are 12 years old, they want to raise that to 16 to protect children. Because our legislators in the past, maybe male chauvinists or just careless about these things. If you are above 12 years old, you are considered no longer children, not any victim. But the progressive groups like Salinlahi and Cabrera are appealing and lobbying to increase that to 16. That means if you are 16 and below, you still have to get consent because this statutory rape bill is still pending, and they hope it will pass. There's also amazing, I have heard this first time today, we have child marriages in the southern regions and other regions of the Philippines. There's a pending bill also in Congress to make illegal child marriages. So there are many things they want to do. And today is World Children's Day. We here, all of us here want to hopefully highlight and ask public support for this. And aside from changing the laws for children and even protecting them, let us also, he said, Mr. Yulipo, said, let us also advance more educational and health initiatives to safeguard our children. Mr. Yule Bonganay also said, this event today here at Pandesal Forum, World Children's Day, is quite significant because we just in the Philippines started vaccinating children, and also we just started limited face-to-face schooling in some schools. So there are many things that children have to face. And also this afternoon, Salinlahi and their group at SEA have an activity in Quezon City, also nearby. It's in Bantayog ng mga bayani, where they have children's performances, children's activities. All these things that they are doing with Arsea, with Salinlahi and everything else is to defend the rights of children and hopefully help restore the children's, to make them, because their childhood had been stolen. He said, 20, poverty and this lockdown and the global pandemic have effectively stolen the childhood of the children. They have become no longer children. They've been shocked by all these adult problems of the world. Now they have to face even as kids. Thank you very much, he said, to all the people helping their NGOs. And thank you very much to the public, to the media, to Secretary Delion and everyone, to the German embassy, especially to the German government, for your help for the very stressed out children of the Philippines. Once again, thank you to everyone. Thank you for everyone. Thank you. Maybe I could ask closing statements from all the panelists here before we end. We'd like to start, maybe we can later on with Mr. Smith. We'd like to start first with the children. Kung may panghuling mensahe kayo. Kahit na maikli lang na mensahe, short closing statement. Everyone, before we end, we'll start with the children first, and then last, the diplomat, and you and the diplomat. So, I'll call you Miss Chris Jimena, 19 years old, for your short closing message.
So yun po, maraming salamat po sa mga dumalo ngayon, especially po sa mga bisita, and sa RCA po. Maraming salamat po. Sa nagsusuportahan niyo po ang bawat kabataan, dahil ang kabataan po ay pag-asa ng bayan. Thank you po.
She just said that thank you very much to all who support them. And she said the children are the future of hope, are the hope of the future. Yes. Miss Leia May Marcos, 14 years old, from Tondo, Manila.
Thank you sa mga dumalo ngayon. Thank you po sa RCA at sa Salinang sa pagdinig ng mga hinain ng ibang kabataan. Sana tuloy-tuloy na lang po yung ginagawa niya. And sa mga bisita. Thank you.
Thank you to all who attended today's World Children's Day. And thank you to our Sarah Salinlahi and their supporters for helping children. Hopefully all this will continue beyond this day. Thank you to everyone. Last, among the children is Christine Castaño, 16 years old, from flood-prone Marikina City.
Maraming salamat po sa pagdinig ng hinain ng mga kabataan. At sana po mas lumawak po itong programa at magtagumpay at magpatuloy pa po ang mga organisasyon na gumagawa po ng ganito. Maraming salamat po Mr. Alexander sa pagdalo at sa pagdinig po ng aming
Ms. Christine Castaño thanks everyone for listening to their complaints, for their hardships and their problems. Thank you to everyone for all your help for the disadvantaged children. And she said, I'd like to make special thanks to Mr. Alexander Smith and his government for your generosity and your presence and solidarity with us. Thank you to everyone who are here. She said, next we'd like to invite Ms. Bim Bim Makaspat, Executive Director of the Association for the Rights of Children in Southeast Asia, ARCSEA, for her closing statement.
Next year po ay eleksyon. Kung lahat po ang tumatakbo sa eleksyon, ay iniisip ang kapakanan ng mga bata. Sigurado po ako maganda ang Pilipinas. Kasi iniisip natin yung pinabukasan natin. Iniisip natin kung paano magkakaroon ng magiging mamamayan. Paano ang mga bata ay siyang pagbibigyan o magkakaroon ng isang lipunan na pantay-pantay. O kung ano man, kasi bilang bata, ano sila very vocal sila sa ano. Wala silang mayaman, walang mahirap. Pag tingnan nila, kalaro nila. So kung ganun tayo mag-isip, at hindi tayo nag-divide, siguro maayos ang ating lipunan. At tandaan natin, social accountability natin, ang pagpapalaki at ang pagpapakulat sa mga bata natin. Kaya lahat tayo ay dapat silin, lahat tayo ay dapat mag-contribute para sa kinabukasan nila.
Thank you to Ms. Lindy Makaspat. She said, very important in the Philippines today. Next year is national election. Hopefully, she said, the candidates for president and other public office hopefully will think and prioritize the welfare and the rights of children. We can hopefully build a better, more just society where everyone is more equal, where rich and poor children can have the same equal opportunities, equal protection of children's rights. She said also, hopefully the leaders that will be elected next year and the leaders now, and all of us adults should learn from the innocence of children. Children play and they think of each other as peers. They don't distinguish each other. They don't divide among themselves. Children are very harmonious and innocent. Let us have the innocence and idealism of children and treat each other fairly and equally. And also, as she said, let us all adults and also our leaders remember our social accountability. We all adults, not only the leaders of this country, are accountable for the welfare and the rights of our children. especially the poor and disadvantaged communities. Let us build a better and more fair and more compassionate and more children-friendly society. Thank you very much. Last but not the least, we want to invite German Embassy Deputy Head, Mr. Alexander Smith, for his closing statement today, World Children's Day.
Thank you very much. I believe there's not so much that I can add at this stage. Just really to use this opportunity again to thank you. It has been a pleasure to be here with you today on International Children's Day. And I think I can speak for the German Embassy that for us it has been a great opportunity to listen and to learn. And we are happy that we could contribute to this very important grassroots project of ARCSEA, which we believe helps to give hope in this time of the COVID pandemic. And I think hope for young children and youth is the most important currency at the moment. So I just want to say again, thank you very much. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alexander Smith. Danke schön. Thank you very much also to former Secretary Corazon Alma de Leon. Thank you very much for your efforts also, Ms. Bim Bim de la Paz Macaspac of ARCSEA, also to Project Officer of ARCSEA, Ms. Erica Mitra, also especially to the hardworking Mr. Yule Rito Bonganay of Samin Mahi Alliance for Children's Concerns for planning and helping all this. And of course, thank you to the children for expressing your hopes and helping voice out the problems of many voiceless children in the Philippines. Ms. Chris Jimena, Ms. Leah May Marcos, Ms. Christine Castaño. Thank you to everyone and happy World Children's Day. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Picture. I may take up the mask, everyone. One more picture. Yes, one more picture. And maybe Mr. Yun Bonganay and